secure a 90th percentile score, right? So in that regard, we have a phenomenally high success rate, and a lot of it is driven by the fact that we have small and medium-sized batches, right? We have 3 batches running any given month, and any given month, we never enroll more than 15 or 20 students in any batch, right? So we set a hard limit at 20 students for a given batch. And that also ensures that we provide on the deliverables that we commit to at the start of the course, which is that we are the only GMAT Prep company in India to offer unlimited validity on our courses, on all of our courses, right? Usually when you go to a GMAT Prep course or a GMAT Prep program, there will always be a limited validity of, let's say, a 6-month period, a 1-year period, or something along those lines, after which you would have to pay a subsequent amount just to renew the course, right? So we are the only GMAT Prep company in India, and I believe globally as well, that does not charge anything further from our students once they enroll in the program. So it's a program that's unlimited validity. You have access to recordings. You can ask any number of doubts. You can attend the classes multiple times, so on and so forth. And also our doubt solving process, which we will discuss a bit later, is extremely versatile. We have got separate dedicated trainers, and myself, Gaurav, Vaibhav, Bhomick, all of whom are on the groups, and we resort to any doubts pretty much in real time, as you will see later in the session. So in short, we are there to ensure that you get to your desired GMAT score, right? And in this session, we will, in addition to looking at, let's say, the Deferred MBA program or the sort of things you should be looking at while preparing your essays or while applying to a Deferred MBA program, we will also look at some of the logical approaches that we follow towards the GMAT itself, right? And why our team and why our students report such a high rate of success, right? So this is basically about me. You'd have probably seen the poster multiple times now. I'm the co-founder and verbal head at GMAT 30. I am also a Monash University graduate and H1 honors graduate, and I've been teaching the GMAT for over a 10-year period, and I've also scored the 99th percentile on the GMAT. Vaibhav, you'll hear from very shortly. He's our Chief Admissions Officer, and he is also an ISB alum as well, right? In fact, Vaibhav was our student when he joined us, and he was also preparing for the CAT simultaneously with preparing for the GMAT, right? So his is a story that you can also relate to and identify with, and how he improved from a 610 to a 740 on the GMAT, right? So Vaibhav is a Christ University honors alum, and he has also worked at places such as Standard Chartered Bank and Sattva Consulting. In fact, Sattva Consulting was his latest role prior to joining ISB. And Vaibhav managed to improve from 610 to 740 in basically a 3-month prep, 3-month window, right? So it is definitely doable, provided you just apply the logical process and follow a dedicated structured path, right? Bhomick, whom you'll hear from later on in the piece, he is our chief academic manager. He handles the academic programs end to end, right? So things related to batch launches, class schedule, anything related to the student portal, basically anything related to customer service, student deliverables, so on and so forth. So if there is an issue that needs to be looked at, so Bhomick escalates that to me, addresses it from his end, and he is also in charge of the entire academic program that we have got at GMAT 30. Also, he is a director at his own company, so he brings a wealth of experience as it pertains to student service, quality deliverables, and that also ensures that we always stay on track with regard to delivering what we have committed and going beyond delivering what we commit to our students, right? So for the next part, what we will discuss in this presentation, so we will discuss Vaibhav's journey with GMAT 30, right? How he improved to a GMAT 740 in a 3-month period with a full-time job, right? Vaibhav will then talk about the Deferred MBA programs and what those programs are looking for, what are the prerequisites, and how you can also apply to a Deferred MBA program, thereby securing your dream business school and the entities that are required in place to ensure that happens, right? Then Vaibhav will talk a bit more about the application process and tips to create a strong application, right? And then I'll take the rest of the presentation forward on how GMAT 30 can help with regard to cracking the GMAT. And we will also discuss a bit more about our GMAT focus immersive courses. So Vaibhav, over to you. I'll make you the host as well, or I can navigate the presentation if that.
Yeah, that works.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Param sir. Hello, everyone. Firstly, thank you for being here on a Saturday evening. I know, like you must have had a lot of plans, but here we are. So I'm looking to add value to the next 1 hour, and let's talk about how we can go about a deferred MBA, how we can make best use of the time available, especially for your professional pursuits. So, firstly, introducing myself. So I'm currently a PGP student at ISB. I'm going to be graduating in the next month. This is my last term at ISB, and tracing my journey back to the time when I was similar as you guys. So I graduated from Christ University, from the economics honors program, and within the last month of my placements, I got placed with Standard Chartered Bank as a compliance analyst. So over there, I worked for close to 1.5 years, and then I always wanted to move towards consulting. So that's why I came to ISB. So I thought that why not, chart my pre-ISB journey towards consulting as well. So then I joined Satwa Consulting as a corporate advisory consultant. I worked there for close to 1.5 years again. So I have somewhere around almost 3 years of work experience before ISB. And then coming to the crux of the matter, how did I go about my MBA journey, which I'm sure that most of you will definitely want to, go about as well. So there were two options in front of me. First, there was the CAT, which of course, like most of the people like us, they do, write CAT, and then of course GMAT. Now I understand GMAT, like there's a smaller target market for GMAT because it is slightly expensive compared to CAT. But the advantages are multifold over CAT. Firstly, it happens multiple times of years. Like you can take unlimited attempts. It lasts for 5 years. So, you can write GMAT, get a decent score right away, and then easily work your way towards your MBA application for the next 5 years. So again, coming back to my journey, I first wrote GMAT around August 2022, and it didn't get a very good score. As you can see, it was a 610, and I definitely thought that it wouldn't cut it for ISB's application. So then I got in touch with Param sir. We worked our way for the next 3 months, and I also simultaneously prepped for CAT because there were a lot of similarities between CAT and GMAT at the time. So again, all of that hard work paid off. I got a 99 percentile in CAT, and I got a decent score with a 740 in GMAT with a 99 percentile in the verbal section of it as well. And thankfully, like because of the hard work and because of our efforts and a slight bit of luck as well, I guess, we got admits from ISB Hyderabad, and I'm Kozhikode. So I chose ISB Hyderabad for my future journey. So that is how it happened. It was a 3 month rigorous period wherein I used to work very hard, and I used to grill Param sir as well on his concepts and make sure that I understand everything that he was teaching me. So, okay, so moving forward, Param sir, can you please? Thank you. So, talking about deferred MBA. So, what exactly is a deferred MBA? So, imagine you're currently sitting in your second or in your third year, and then you have some plan that, okay, you want to pursue an MBA down the line and also gain some work experience. I know most of our parents, they do tell us that, okay, you jump into an MBA right after your undergrad. I mean, that is one way to go about it. But what if you want to try work experience for a few years, let's say 2 to 3 years? I mean, that's the ideal time. So imagine getting an option that, and that too with a very globally renowned and very popular university, which can definitely advance your career multifolds, getting an option for a seat there and then working your way towards it. So that is what a deferred MBA is. Firstly, it's an advanced admission into an MBA program. So I'll take, so for this part of the presentation, I'll take ISB's YLP program. I'm sure some of you may know of it. So ISB's YLP program, which is Young Leaders Program, it's sort of a program which offers this opportunity. So what you essentially do is you can apply in your penultimate or your final year of undergrad education, and even in your master's education. The only caveat is that you have to have 0 years of work experience. So you can apply right now, apply with your essays, with your GMAT score, and then sit for the interviews. And then once you clear it, once you receive an admit, you have to have at least 21 months of work experience before you can join the MBA program. So that is roughly about 2 years of work experience. And that is what I've seen in my cohort, that most of the YLP candidates have around 23 to 24 months of work experience. So that is what it entails. Now, talking about the advantages, Param sir, can you please shift to the next slide? Thank you. So talking about the advantages, firstly, you get an assured admit. So imagine you're in your final year and you have an admit to ISB, and then you have this option that okay, you can join after 2 years. And even then, let's say in the second year of your work experience, you realize that okay, you want to work, let's say a year more, or you have some growth opportunity, or you have some interesting exposure that is upcoming, let's say at a location which is abroad, and you want to work for 1 more year. So you can defer it very easily. So that's what I've seen many YLP candidates do, that they get the YLP admit, but then they work for, let's say, 3 to 4 years as well, because they have some interesting prospect going on in the work side, right? So that is number one, that you get an assured admit. Now, talking about the second advantage, which is you get more time to draft an application versus a working professional. Now, I would like to bring my journey back again as an example. So when I was working with Satwa Consulting as a corporate advisory consultant, uh, I used to have very long hours as well. Like there were days when I used to work like 12 hours, and that was mainly because of the client demands. And you know how consulting can get very hectic at times. So I had to really, carve out time from my personal schedule, from my personal time, to make sure that I'm studying for GMAT, that I'm working on my application as well, and I'm also preparing for the interviews. So that was, it is sort of difficult. I mean, it is doable, but it is difficult. Like in hindsight, I realized that I should have maybe done this in my undergrad, had I known that okay, this sort of an option existed. So imagine that you're sitting right now, you will definitely have more time compared to a working professional. So you can complete your college during the day, work on your assignments for the college, and then in the evening you just need to carve out, let's say, 2.5 to 3 hours for GMAT every day, and that's for 2.5 to 3 months, and then you'll be on your way with the GMAT score. And then of course you can work on your application too. So you definitely get a lot more time to draft an application versus a working professional. And also it grants you some sort of, like, some degree of freedom as well. So let's say if you have a ISB YLP admit, and then you think that okay, you want to write CAT for like CAT once more as well, like right after your undergrad, just to try and target the IIMs too. So you have that option because you have a safety net with ISB. So that's what happens as well. Thirdly, talking about chance to gain skills and chart your path towards your post MBA goal. Now, this is the most exciting prospect for me, because before coming to a full-time MBA program, you have the flexibility to to chart your own path. So let's say if your post-career goal is consulting, and you think that okay, right after undergrad you want to do something related to consulting, wherein you have some transferable skills, so you get the time to build that. So you can maybe join, let's say, a McKinsey, like a business analyst, or like Deloitte as an analyst, right? So you gain those core consulting skills which would help you in your MBA placements, plus in your post MBA career as well. So a lot of synergies at play over here. So these are very few advantages which can help you uh, chart your career and advance your career with a deferred MBA, and provides you a lot of flexibility as well. Not, thank you. So next slide. Yes. So these are some of the colleges which are offering deferred MBA. So there's HPS, there's Wharton, there's Stanford, ISB, of course, since I was talking about it, MIT Sloan, Yale School of Management. And these are some of the deadlines which are mentioned against the colleges. So you can see that, most like these Ivy League and M7 colleges are offering these deferred MBA. So definitely adds a lot of credibility. And also talking about another advantage is that once you have this sort of a tag that okay, you are a, let's say, HBS 2+2 admit, and you mentioned that on your LinkedIn header, it adds a lot of credibility and a lot of weight to your profile, and it would lead to many doors opening, many more opportunities coming your way, looking at it from a professional aspect. Next slide, sir. Thank you. So now talking about the application process. So on the first row, we have got the timeline, which is penultimate year, final year, and then work ex year one, year two, and then the final admit, and then the task below it, which you need to do. So I'm again using ISB's YLP process, which is, I think I consider it on the more lengthier side of the processes that we have available. So talking about ISB YLP process, so there's an initial essay stage wherein you have to submit a 300-word essay. Now, depending on what stage of undergrad you are in, like be it in your second year or in your third year, you'll have to write that essay. So once you get done with that essay, then you have to write your GMAT. like because you need to submit your score in the stage 2 of the application, plus some additional essays as well, which would include a letter of recommendation. Now this would be from, let's say, a place of an internship, or let's say from a professor of yours, who would be willing to write an LOR for you. Now then, the next stage would be the interview stage, wherein you'd be interviewed by alums from ISB. Now, of course, this differs from college to college, but ISB usually does this. Only alums are coming up to interview you, and then finally you get the admit. Now, post admit, there's nothing much to do. So for ISB, there are learning weekends which you need to attend. Let's say around 3 to 4 learning weekends over the course of the next 2 years, or there could be some reflective essays being asked from you regarding your work experience. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just something you need to do. And then of course there could be networking events which serve as a great platform for you to, to build your own personal brand, to network with other people who are in the same boat as you, and also network with people, who are in firms or who are in careers which you aspire to be in. So it's a great opportunity for those admits. Now, talking about the common evaluation parameters. So, firstly, outstanding academic record. So, since you won't have any work experience, so the only things that they would be evaluating you upon, like the concrete, the stuff mentioned on the paper, are your scores. So, it could be 10th, it could be the 10th score, it could be 12th, and of course, your current undergraduate CGPA. So those are the things they look for, because these things, they build up your consistency. So imagine if you're getting 95% plus across all the three ambits, that is 10, 12th, and undergraduate. So that, adds a lot of value to your profile as well. Now, in case you don't have let's say, an outstanding academic record, let's say, your percentage or your GPA in undergraduate dipped by a bit, then you have the opportunity to supplement that by a high test score. So you can write a GMAT or a GRE. I mean, MBAs mostly prefer GMAT, but if you write a GMAT and you get a high score, then you can, show that, okay, you have the rigor of that academic consistency. Is that the some, like, some place it was an outlier, that dip in your undergraduate, but then the high test score definitely adds a lot of value to your profile. Thirdly, looking at leadership and impact. Now, this could be ranging from anywhere, like wherever you want to bring it out in your application. It could be from a fest or leading a team, let's say the consulting club within your college. And what is the impact that you've created with your cohort? Let's say how many people have you helped, or how many people, you've created better learning outcomes from for them. So these could be some of the parameters that they could be evaluating you under leadership and impact. Second last, so there's analytical rigor, which could be assessed on the basis of what kind of competitions you've taken part in, or have you cracked any entrance examination, or let's say any business case competition. So these are the things that could, be an indicator for your higher analytical rigor. Lastly, and I think which is one of the most important criteria, is goal clarity. That is something that they definitely look on in your application, that what is your goal clarity. Like, of course it wouldn't be like that, okay, for sure that you want to pursue this after your MBA, but it always adds a lot of value if you are sort of have a direction or a natural progression towards your goal post MBA. So you can, chart it out, like, okay, like before the MBA, within the 2 years, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be developing your skills like this, because those skills would be adding value to your MBA program and to your career post your MBA program. So these are some of the examples of how you can showcase your goal clarity. So talking about how we can, add value to your application process. So okay, so we are there of end to end, from every step at sorry, for every step at the value chain. So firstly, GMAT classes that Param sir will be talking about. So he'll be taking care of everything related to GMAT. And the second phase is where I step in. I'll be helping you with school selection, application drafting, interviews, and additional mentoring. Talking about school selection, of course, you're going to be spending a lot of money. You're going to be putting in a lot of effort as well. So we need to make sure that the school selection is definitely aligned to your own personal priorities. Like, it could be a location preference or your goal post MBA. We need to ensure that your profile aligns with the MBA program, and you can, be mutually beneficial to each other. That is the candidate and the MBA program. So school selection is one thing. Second is application drafting. I'll be helping you with drafting your essays, reviewing your essays, reviewing your LORs, and of course filling the form itself, that what kind of merits or what kind of awards and awards and certification you should be mentioning in your form. That is second. Thirdly, talking about the interview. So once you get to the interview stage, I'll be there at every step of your help, because interview is one of the most hectic phases. As in the case of ISB, you get the interview you get the interview invite a week prior to the interview date. So of course you will need to be figuring out what kind of responses do you want to be putting forward, or are you absolutely clear with whatever you've written on your application form, and of course having the mock interviews. So these are the kinds of ways in which GMAT 30 can add value to your entire application journey. And of course, lastly is additional mentoring. So once you get an admit, so between the time you get an admit and between the time you actually join the MBA program, be it 2 years or 3 years, we are there to help you with your professional guidance. So let's say if you wanna switch to a different industry, so I'll always be there to help you and guide you towards those goals, and give you my opinions as well based on my industry knowledge and based on my knowledge from ISB. So these are some of the ways in which we can add a lot of value. And of course, proactive support is something we definitely offer all the time. So that is pretty much it from my side. Now, Param sir will take care of the GMAT side. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Vaibhav, for such an informative and engaging presentation. So I hope that um, it was useful and informative to most of the aspirants here. So now let's talk a little bit more about the next sections, right? GMAT 30, GMAT Focus Immersive, what we offer, right? And then this part of the session will make it as engaging and as interactive as possible, because we are also going to be solving a couple of GMAT official questions, right? And through this, the idea is to show you that how even the 99th percentile question, or what is categorized as the 99th percentile question on the official GMAT, how even those could be solved easily, provided you follow a logical approach, right? So it's not an exam like the CAT, which requires heavy, intensive preparation of 1 year, memorizing a whole bunch of vocab, memorizing a whole bunch of mathematical rules, or memorizing a whole bunch of frameworks, right? The GMAT is a very certain way of thinking, which is more to do with critical reasoning, formal logic, and pure mathematics, right? But mathematics, not of the mathematics which is, absolutely, let's say, calculus or 3D geometry or trigonometry, but mathematical skills in the sense of problem solving, right? So our GMAT focus immersive, basically all of our courses are unlimited validity. So they are either 7 or 8 week programs. So we have, as we mentioned, 3 batches, one in the morning, one in the evening, and one on weekends, right? So our morning and evening batches, and Bhomick will talk more about those. They are basically 7 week programs, because they have got 3 classes a week. Our weekend batches are 8 week programs. So there are only 2 classes. The duration of those classes, on the other hand, is 3 hours. The weekday batches, the classes that we have got, those classes duration is 2 hours, right? In all of our courses, we also have special sessions dedicated to advanced level questions and application, right? Because that's really where the incremental learning happens, right? Assuming that your target or your aspiration is to go into one of these IIM, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, or ISB, or even to an M7 MBA program, right, through the GMAT. So the GMAT requirement is going to be pretty competitive, right, especially for an Indian aspirant, correct? So the overall GMAT score that you're looking at would be somewhere in the range of 94th percentile or 96th percentile, right? Now, on the GMAT Focus Edition, that would translate into a score of 685 or 695, right? So basically, the competition is pretty strict, right? But there is no way that you can't stay a step ahead of the curve, provided you start your preparation early, right? So our courses also focus on advanced questions, advanced application. All our courses are supplemented with real-time doubt solving. And when I say real-time doubt solving, I really do mean real-time doubt solving, right? At the same time, we also take cognizance of the fact that there will be some test takers who will be preparing for the GMAT from scratch. So it's not that we start off our classes with, let's say, a 96th percentile question, not at all. In fact, the first couple of sessions are geared exclusively towards foundational logic, problem-solving skills, mathematical reasoning, and then towards the latter classes, once those foundational concepts are solid, and once they are in place, then we move on to the more advanced questions, right? So our immersive classes have helped students who have been preparing for the GMAT for the very first time, right? In fact, in today's session, we'll hear a bit from Tushar in a video form. And he prepared for the GMAT with us for the very first time, and in 3 months scored a 750, right? Or if you're a test taker who has taken the GMAT 2 or 3 times, or are a retaker who is preparing for his or her second attempt, then also our courses have those sorts of advanced types of content that can really propel your score into the 97th, 98th percentile and beyond. As for example, was the case with Vaibhav as well. He came to us after having written the GMAT a couple of times, and our course also propelled him to the 97th percentile, right? So it is truly a course that's meant for whether you're a first-time test taker or whether you're a retaker, right? So how do we do it, right? So as I mentioned initially, the first aspect, of course, let me just get rid of. Okay. Yeah. So the first aspect is that we focus on ensuring that you're comfortable with all the foundational and basic concepts, right? So every class, for example, has got a set of pre-reads associated with it, either in text or video form, right? Which are discussed during the starting half an hour of the class. And that ensures that we are all comfortable with the terminology on the concepts that we are going to build upon during the remainder of the class or during the other sessions. Then comes the aspect of mastering the core skills, right? So this is where we look into GMAT specific skills. So in quant, for example, those skills would involve things like percentage, numbers, time, speed, distance, right? Sequence and series. Whereas in verbal, those skills would involve things such as critical reasoning, the different types of logical flaws, mathematical frameworks. Even verbal is extremely mathematical on the GMAT, right? Or it involves a certain type of problem solving skill that will be tested, right? And of course, reading comprehension, right? So after every live class, in addition to the class content, you also get post-class assignment. And all of that is complemented via 24/7 doubt solving that ensures that that incremental learning happens, right? So you don't have to wait to schedule a doubt session. You don't have to write an email to anyone to get your doubts sorted, which is really one of the most frustrating aspects as a test taker, right? Or generally as a customer, we demand immediate responses to our queries. And at GMAT 30, we have truly inculcated that philosophy, right? Then, of course, comes the mock writing phase. So our courses also come equipped with 15 GMAT-like adaptive mocks, right? Because, of course, learning the content, applying the concepts, and solving question sets is just one part of the puzzle. But to really feel confident before the exam day, as is the case with interviews as well, as Vaibhav mentioned in his presentation, you can't just turn up to the interview stone cold, right? Even if you have written your essay and that's what you're going to be quizzed on, you can't just turn up to an interview without having prepared for it, without having done a few mock interviews, right? Same goes for the GMAT. Although you might be comfortable with concepts, integrating and synthesizing all of those ideas together in a mock is an entirely different skill, right? And so our courses also focus on mock analysis, refining test-taking strategies, and then charting out the way forward before you book your exam date, right? And that's basically a 4-step methodology as to how you can ace the GMAT, right? So we ensure that you're prepared end to end from classes, basic concepts, advanced concepts, mock analysis, test-taking strategies before you write the exam. And that's one of the reasons for our high success rates, right? So now what we will do over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes is we will look at a few actual GMAT questions, right? Now, these are GMAT questions that have all been tagged as a 99 percentile difficulty in the official guide, right? And so what I will do in these 3 questions, so we'll have 3 questions. What I'll do is I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a read of the question prompt and have a read of the option as well, right? And then you can type in your answers in the chat box, correct? And then we will discuss how we could solve this using a more logical or a more critical reasoning based approach, right? So take a crack at it, have a go at this question. Maybe let's give it a couple of minutes. Once you're done, you can type in your answers in the chat box, right? And then we will look at a way or a GMAT-like way to solve the question. Okay, Rana. Good to hear that, Muskan and Divya, that you found Vaibhav's presentation useful. Okay, Mahiraj. So far we have got 2 responses from Ronak and Mahiraj. Okay, Aryaman, Jatin, Jayantika, that's very good. We are getting a few responses. Okay, Shikhar. Okay, Chia. Okay, Muskan. Okay, Aviral. Okay, Aditya. Let's maybe give it 1 more minute for a few responses, right? Okay, Divya. Okay, Raghav. Okay, Tushita. Good, Bharat. Okay, Renu. Okay, Shailaja. All right. So now let's have a look at how we could use simple mathematics or simple problem solving skills to have a go at this question, right? Now, this looks like a fairly complex problem, correct? And once we get the presentation, yeah. So just give me 1 sec to set this up. Okay, is the presentation visible to everyone still? Just quickly confirming. Yeah. Okay, great. So now a lot of you have selected option E, right? Unfortunately, that doesn't work, right? And we'll talk about why that doesn't work, right? So first of all, we have to find a logical flaw in the representative's line of reasoning, right? And we covered these types of logical flaws in the classes as well. Basically, the verbal section comprises about 7 or 8 of these types of logical flaws. But let's first understand what the argument is and what the flaw in the argument is, right? So we have got this bloke, this airline representative, right, who says that the percentage of delays caused by airline error has decreased significantly this year, right? So it's giving us a certain percentage, right? Percentage of flight delays caused by airline error, right? Now the representative says this indicates that airlines listen to complaints about preventable errors, which are mainly these flight delays caused by airline error, right? And address the problems, correct? And then his main conclusion, the main reason that he's writing the passage, is really captured by the last sentence, right? Which basically says that although delays caused by weather and other uncontrollable factors will always be part of the travel, preventable delays are clearly decreasing, right? So in effect, the author basically says, or the representative basically says, that the percentage of flight delays caused by airline error, this percentage has gone down, right? This percentage has decreased. That's stated as a fact, right? And from this, he's drawing the conclusion that the number of flight delays or the number of preventable delays, which is basically flight delays caused by airline error, that has decreased, right? And this is one of the reasons or one of the ideas that I would want you guys to take out of from this session, even if nothing else, that the GMAT verbal section is not really just a test of your English literacy skills, right? Of course, a certain level of English is required to understand the sentences, to understand the argument, and of course, the test is administered in English. But beyond that, it's really about logical thinking, right? So this is a very common line of reasoning that we misuse almost on a daily basis in our argumentation, right? For example, we might say, well, the percentage of unemployed people has decreased over the past year, right? And therefore, the number of unemployed people has also decreased, right? In other words, we basically have a tendency, an incorrect tendency of mapping a percentage to an actual number, right? Or more adequately, mapping a percentage to the numerator of the percentage, right? Whereas a percentage is always going to be a fraction, right? It's going to comprise a numerator, sure, but it's also going to comprise a denominator, right? And most of us in our day-to-day lines of reasoning often tend to ignore the denominator, right? If we were to say the percentage of unemployed people has decreased over the past year, and therefore the number of unemployed people has decreased, well, that is one possibility, right? For example, let's say earlier only 10% of the people were unemployed. Now that has decreased to, let's say, 5%, right? Now, assuming that the denominator remained the same in both instances, right? Let's say earlier there was a total of 100 people. Now also there is a total of 100 people, right? So then, of course, it makes sense to draw a conclusion on the numerator, right? The number of unemployed people would have decreased, right? But unless we know something about the denominator, right, we cannot really draw a conclusion on the numerator just on the basis of a percentage change, right? The author's flaw, therefore, when he says that the percentage has decreased, therefore the numerator has decreased, is really that he is not taking into account the denominator at all, right? Because it's not necessary that the numerator has to decrease for the percentage to decrease, right? एक और तरीका है through which the percentage could decrease without the numerator getting impacted in any way, shape, or form, right? And that is to do really with the denominator, right? For example, let's say earlier there were 100 people and 10 people were unemployed, right? So that's an unemployment rate of 10%, right? But now, for example, let's say the number or the total number of people who can actually apply to jobs, let's say that is 1,000, right? And in that case, even if the rate does decrease to a 5%, the actual numerator is still going to be greater, right? That is for a 5% unemployment rate. Now the numerator has actually increased, right? And therefore, the other way as to how the percentage could decrease overall without the numerator necessarily changing, right, is if the denominator increases significantly, right? So for example, the basic idea is that 10 upon 1,000 is always going to be less than 10 upon 100, right? So the main gap or the main bridge that the author has to cross over here is he has to take into account the denominator. It should not be the case that the decrease is happening simply because of an increase in the denominator, right? And which option talks about the denominator? in this case with regard to percentage of flight delays caused by airline error. So first of all, percentage of flight delays caused by airline error, what would be the numerator? The numerator would just be the actual number, right? That is the number of flight delays caused by airline error, right? What would be the denominator? Denominator would be the much bigger superset, right? So in formal logic or in critical reasoning logic, we have this idea of superset and subset, right? So here the superset would just be the total number of delays, right? And therefore, the thing that the author has overlooked is that the total number of delays could also have increased drastically, right? And that in turn could have led to the overall decrease in the percentage, right? The author says, well, the denominator has not changed, and it's only the numerator that has decreased from the fact that the percentage has decreased, right? And the denominator variable, which is the total number of delays and the fact or the possibility that the total number of delays could have increased, is only addressed by option D, right? Key delays caused by these weather and other uncontrollable factors could also have increased drastically during the year under discussion, right? And then if that is the case, then just on the basis of the percentage decreasing, we cannot really conclude that the numerator has necessarily decreased, right? Another way to sort of eliminate some of the options, and this is one of the key ideas in verbal, that it's always more elimination than selection, right? And one of the frameworks which we also talk about is the framework of comparison, right? So for example, here you've got a comparison between this year and something that happened over the previous time period, right? कि there was something new or something unique that occurred this year, right? जो कि पिछले सालों में नहीं हुआ था, right? So the correct answer choice should also talk about that idea, right? And this we cover in scope analysis and domain of an argument, कि how to identify the domain, right? So the domain of the argument is only limited to something unique that took place this year, right? And something unique that took place this year is also only addressed in option D, right? Ki this year there could have been something different or something unique, right? Option E, which was the most commonly selected option, or even option A, doesn't work for the simple reason that E does not say that there was anything unique this year, right? That is, even if customers might not believe that the delays were caused by uncontrollable factors, still the point of the fact of the matter is the line of reasoning can still hold. Ki the percentage decreased this year, therefore the numerator decreased, right? Because they would not have believed this even in the previous years, right? So option E does not really tell you anything about what was unique to this year, right? A comes much closer, but A again suffers from the same sort of gap that E does, right? Again, it does not talk about anything unique that took place this year, right? Had option A said something along the lines of, key airlines may have been motivated by financial concerns to underreport the percentage of flight delays this year caused by airline error, right? Had option A been stated in this manner, then even A could have been a correct option, right? In which case, of course, you wouldn't have option D, right? Because then option A basically would have said that they are just fabricating the data, and ऐसा actual में नहीं हुआ है कि the percentage of flight delays has decreased. They are just motivated by money or finances to underreport the actual number of delays that occurred this year, right? And then A again would have pointed out ki what was so unique or what was so different this year as compared to the previous years, right? But the way that option A is phrased, the verb tense that is used in option A, does not say that they were motivated by financial concerns only this year, right? If option A is true, then, well, they may be motivated by financial concerns generally, in which case they would have been motivated last year, the year before that, and so on and so forth, right? Yet the actual percentage decline only took place this year, right? So on that basis alone, also, there has to be something unique or something different this year that took place, you could eliminate options A and E and land at option D, right? Another option which was selected was option C. So I'll just address that very quickly. Even if complaints may not be the most reliable measure of how many errors occurred in a given year, right? That has really got nothing to do with the argument of the representative, right? The argument of the representative is simply to do with the fact whether the number of preventable delays, whether that number is decreasing or not, right? He says that the number is decreasing on the basis of this fact. The percentage has decreased, just as the percentage of unemployed people has decreased from 10 to 5. Therefore, fewer people are unemployed, right? True, if the denominator remains the same, absolutely, fewer people are unemployed, right? But what if the overall population of the town expands from 100 to 1000, right? Then in that case, even if the percentage decreases, it does not really mean that the numerator has declined. The denominator always has to be taken into account when dealing with percentage, proportion, ratio, fractions, all those sorts of entities. Clear on this, everyone? Any queries or doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah, really.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Excellent.
Yes.
Clear? Brilliant. Having fun so far in this question? Or did you have fun in this question? And see how tricky the verbal reasoning section is. A lot of you might think, okay, verbal reasoning is just a test of English. If my English is good, then I should be able to ace the verbal section, so on and so forth, right? But it is much more logically oriented than just that, right? Shall we look at a couple more questions? Yeah, good to hear that, Saksham. Yeah, should we look at two more questions? Again, official
Yes.
GMAT questions, right? Let's have a look at this one. Again, take a couple of minutes to have a read of the passage, right? So Gia, what is the GMAT score for ISB? So again, as Vaibhav would have mentioned, it's a combination of your profile and extracurriculars, academics, so on and so forth. But assuming that the rest of the stuff is, let's say, average or above average, you're looking at a score in the 94th percentile range, right? So that translates into a 685 on the GMAT Focus Edition, or it translated to a 720 on the classical GMAT, right? Vaibhav, would you like to add to that maybe? So,
Thank you, sir. Sure. So, I mean, Param sir captured it at most of its extent. Like you mentioned, it's a combination of your entire profile. So, let's say if a GMAT score is slightly less than the 94th percentile, maybe you can make up for it in some areas like extracurricular, like or like have a like a national award in some sport or anything. Like just like talking about basic examples, right? So of course, it's a combination of your entire profile. It's not just that GMAT would make or break for it, but
hmm.
again, there's no downside to a higher GMAT score. It would add a lot of value to your profile. I hope that answers your question, Tia.
All right. So, and Siddharth had also a question to ask us. Does having a job offer help in ISB, YLP?
Right. So, Siddharth, interesting question. Yes, it can help you because by the time, like, especially for this year, by the time your interviews happen for YLP, I think most of you would be graduating and most of you would be having job offers in hand as well. Most of you may have started your job as well. So, that definitely helps you because, of course, it adds a bit of credibility to your profile. Plus, it gives you a sense of direction as well. So let's say if you start working, let's say with the McKinsey, right? So you can tell ISB that okay, like post your MBA, you want post the ISB PGB program, you want to go towards this particular sector, and this is how I think my time at McKinsey would be helping me.
Hmm.
So that is how having a job offer can, help you in that regard. I hope that answers your question, Siddharth.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Vaibhav, for that. All right. So we have gotten, or we have started getting a few queries or a few responses to this question. Okay. So we have got responses from Mahiraj, from Daksh, from Aditya, not 100% sure, but 99%. Well, 99% is pretty good, surety. So then we have also got Saksham. Okay. Few more responses before we discuss this one. Again, this is a verbal reasoning question, which is not categorized at a 99 percentile difficulty as the previous question was, but this is also categorized at an 85 percentile difficulty, right? Simply because the options are much lengthier, right? And then you have to really analyze the options, again, eliminating them one by one, and then arriving at the correct answer. Okay, Ronak? Good. And that is indeed correct. So Ronak, Saksham, Aditya, Daksh, all of you are correct. Again, the thing is, the devil is really in the details, right? I mean, okay, so let's look at the argument because this one is very, very interesting. And quite often the confusion is really between D and E, right? The final two options, correct? So what is the overall argument? The overall argument is that we have got this corporation known as Haglet Corporation. That's irrelevant. And again, oftentimes, this is one of the things you should do. Whenever you're given a proper noun, just acronymize it to something, treat it as a black box and move on, right? The GMAT loves setting these sorts of distractors as part of their question text or as part of their passage. Distractors which really eat into your time because verbal section there is the greatest challenge of time, right? You have got 23 questions and 45 minutes to solve those questions, right? So that's under 2 minutes a question. And that includes 4 reading comp passages, accounting for 13 questions and 10 CR questions, right? So time management has to be absolutely spot on, but time management is really a byproduct of conceptual clarity, right? So what does the debater say? So this bloke says that the average amount of overtime per month worked by an employee in the manufacturing division, again, pay attention to the domain or the scope, right? So we are talking about this employee in the manufacturing division. And then it says the average amount of overtime is 14 hours, right? Then it says most employees of the Haglet Corporation work in the manufacturing division. All right, so let's put numbers to it. Let's say in HC we have got 100 people. Manufacturing division, let's say we have got 70 people, the majority. Then the author also goes on to say that the average amount of overtime per month generally does not fluctuate much from month to month, right? So it remains at a constant 14 hours, let's say 14, maybe 15, maybe 12, so on and so forth. And then the conclusion is where the author makes a huge leap of faith, right? Therefore, and this is the sort of way in which they will trap you unless you're reading the argument carefully. Therefore, most employees of the corporation almost certainly work some overtime, right? So it's basically saying an analogy would be my average grade was 90. Therefore, I scored a 90 in every subject, right? And just because you're told what the average is of a certain set of entities, right? We cannot conclude that every entity has to have the same value as the average, right? Average अगर आपको दिया हुआ है and you know the number of elements, all you can really conclude is the sum of the elements in the set, right? For example, if you're told that the average of 5 elements is 90, all you can really conclude is that the sum of that set would be 90 cross 5, which is 450, right? And what the GMAT CR will try to do is that it will try to say that the average is a certain value, and then it will try to extend the argument into saying that therefore each element is the same value, right? But we must account for a disproportionate distribution of elements in the set, right? For example, this is one way as to how the average could turn out to be 90, but the average could also turn out to be 90, for instance, if, for example, somebody scored 100 in 4 of their units, right? And scored a 50, a lowly 50 in the final unit, right? And then in this case, for 4 of their units, they would have an HD grade, whereas for the final unit, they would have a grade of C or, whatever the corresponding equivalent is, right? And that's effectively what you're looking for in such question types based on the concept of average. Basically, you're looking for an option that says, because we have to weaken it, again, the argument is vulnerable to which of the following criticisms. And the main difference between D and E really is in terms of the quantifier, right? The author says that most employees work some overtime, that is this overtime of 14 hours, right? He is assuming that everybody has, the set value equal to 14, 14, 14, 14, right? To weaken it, the option should say that most employees probably do not work this kind of overtime, and maybe it's only 1 or 2 poor employees who are being forced to work all these extra hours, right? कि ऐसा हो सकता है 3 managers say, and you have got 2 low-level employees, and all the low-level employees have to put in the overtime, right? कि again, if the average of 5 workers is 14 hours of overtime, it's not crucial or it's not necessary that the set looks like this for the average to be 14, right? It could also be the case that maybe 2 employees are putting in 35 hours of overtime a week, and the 3 top-level managers are putting in no overtime, right? So that's another advantage of doing an MBA as a top-level manager. You probably can get by or get away without doing this overtime, right? And mainly the difference between D and E is the quantifier, right? D says it overlooks the possibility that even if there is a certain average worked by members of the group, many members may work no overtime at all. E is very, very similar to that even if most employees work some overtime, any one employee may work no overtime in some months, right? So between D and E, if the argument is that most employees work some overtime, which of the two do we think is a better weakener or a better flaw? That many members work no overtime or one member does not work overtime in some months? Assuming that the conclusion is that most employees work some overtime. So which of the two do we reckon would weaken it better? Absolutely, right? That is the option containing the quantifier many, right? The author says 9 out of 10 people work overtime of 14 hours. Option D says 9 out of 10 people do not work overtime, and it's only that one extra person जिसके ऊपर सारा काम आ जाता है, who works 70 hours of overtime, right? E is really second best, and this is what you'll experience quite a bit in CR and RC, and even in certain data insights questions that you'll be stuck between the final two options. And this is where the details, that is the conceptual clarity, will bail you out, right? E is a possible weakener, but it's extremely mild, right? It's just talking about one employee, that too in some months, right? Whereas the conclusion is each month most employees work some overtime, right? So considering those sorts of quantifiers, D weakens it a whole lot more than does option E. Clear on this, everyone? Similarly, you could also eliminate option B, right? B is sort of the exact opposite to what you're looking for, right? B says कि even if a certain amount of overtime is worked by any employee of the corporation, then the same amount of overtime has to be worked by a manufacturing division employee. In fact, the flaw in the argument, if anything, is the exact opposite. The argument says if a manufacturing division guy goes 14 hours, then any employee in the corporation goes 14 hours, right? So Ronak, elimination is a pretty good way to proceed in such cases, right? The main mathematical flaw, and this is what CR is about, a whole collection of mathematical flaws, right? And critical reasoning frameworks. So the main framework over here is really the concept of average, right? And basically, this is what you will experience when you start learning CR properly, or that's how we teach it. There are these 7 or 8 frameworks. And for example, one of the frameworks is dedicated exclusively to the concept of average, right? And there are at least 8 or 10 high-level official questions that test on the exact same flaw. The author says the average is equal to X. Therefore, each element in the set is equal to X, right? And there, one of the main flaws will be we have to account for a disproportionate or an inordinate distribution of elements in the set, right? अगर average 14 है आपका, does not mean every element in the set is equal to 14. Could also be the case maybe the set comprises 10 elements and one element is 140, everything else is not, right? And this also is a skill that will be useful in data insights and quant, right? Testing for edge case values, for problem solving, for mathematical flaws, those sorts of things. Brilliant. Excellent. So that was great participation. Let's look at, absolutely, Roshan, the recording will be shared. It will be shared with everyone, and we'll share some other things as well, which Bhomick will talk about later. Let's look at one final question of CR, right? Just to imbibe this idea, it's not just a test of the English language, right? Which is what, a lot of test takers have an initial misconception of. Resources for integrated reasoning questions, Muskan. So the official guide, the Focus Edition Data Insights book, right? Once you purchase the hard copy, then you get access to a code, and that in turn will give you access to 100+ IR questions, brand new IR questions. Apart from that, the Focus Edition mocks are also there, and they have entirely rebranded the mocks, right? So they are all new questions for the Focus Edition exclusively. So there are a total of 6 mocks available on the official website. Each of them can be taken at least once more, right? So that's a total of 12 mocks. And 12 mocks there are a total of at least 12 odd IR questions for the data insight section for every mock, right? So that's basically 12 cross 12, 144 there, 100 there from the official guide. Plus on GMAT Club also, you can look at a few official past edition IR questions. And then we also provide 15 mocks. So they also would account for about 300 more IR questions. So I would say a combination of those, because IR, they didn't really change the questions over the past so many years, right? Because it wasn't part of the mark score when the GMAT used to be on a scale between 200 and 800, right? So they haven't released too much, but they have released enough so that the test takers can practice. So all in all, you'll be able to find about at least 500, I would say, IR questions. But that's, of course, still lower than what you have for quant and verbal, right? For quant and verbal, you'd have close to at least 7,000 odd questions for each section easily. So study schedule, Muskan, that's very, very unique to the student, really, right? So there isn't any generic one-size-fits-all study schedule, correct? Because it would depend upon other things, how much time you're able to devote to your prep, right? What sort of challenges you're facing in your prep, whether the challenge is in a basic concept or a more advanced concept. So you can connect with us later and we'll be able to guide you on that, right? But, there wouldn't be a generic response to that because, the same program can definitely not work for everybody. If, for example, you're at an advanced level, then you'd need a different study schedule. If you're, on the other hand, scoring, let's say, at a 615 or 625 in the mocks, you'd need a different study schedule. Working professional, different study schedule. So there are a lot of branches, to that same document. So you can connect with us. We'll share with you our contact numbers a bit later in the presentation. And then we'll be more than happy to guide you on that. Cool. So Divya, we will respond to that query regarding Ivy Leagues, right? So we will respond to it at the end of the presentation once we have gone through the remaining part of the slides, right? So guys, any questions related to, let's say, admission consulting, college selection, let's say interviews for colleges, right? So let's maybe park them for the end, right? Once I have completed the GMAT preparation part of the presentation and once Bhomick has presented our course schedule and the academic program, and then we'll have a dedicated 25 to 30 minute slot for just Q&A, right? So we have accounted for that as well. Cool. Any other responses to this one? Exam day, Ronak, there are no such procedures and policies. You need your passport, A, right? You can't take anything into your test cubicle, right? Passport and locker key are pretty much the only things that you can take to the cubicle where you'll be writing the test, right? To the test center, you can bring a bag which you need to keep in the locker, right? Plus, during the 10-minute break that you get, I suggest bringing some refreshments, something to drink maybe, because you can't really leave the test center, but you can always access your locker during the break. Cool. So now this question, let's discuss it a little bit. Again, this is categorized as a 99 percentile question, right? And this question belongs to the framework of causation correlation, right? And the overarching idea on the GMAT is, or informal logic is, that correlation does not entail causation, right? Just because you have got two events occurring together, that does not mean event one causes event two, right? And one of the most common lines of questioning in CR will be, the author will say X causes Y, and then the question would ask you to strengthen or weaken the argument, right? So this question asks you to strengthen the argument X causes Y, right? So whenever you get this sort of question, always map out the X and the Y, always isolate them. So here your X is orcas, your Y is the otter population decline, right? And we have to strengthen the idea that orcas were the cause of the otter population decline, right? Now, one of the ways to strengthen a causality-based argument, and there are multiple others, but one of the ways which you will see in the options is an option that basically goes something like this. कि when the cause is not there, the effect is also not there, right? Because that adds a bit more credibility to the idea कि X causes Y, right? For example, if you say asbestos causes cancer, right? So if it's a true causality, we would also expect कि अगर asbestos नहीं है, then the person would not contract cancer, right? Again, strengthen does not mean that we have to prove a 100% that asbestos causes cancer. It just means we have to make the argument a bit more credible, right? And again, there are standard templates and blueprints to how the answer would appear on the test day for a given framework, right? And therefore, once you have mastered the framework and once you have mastered the blueprint, then the correct option would almost jump out at you, right? So here, if you're looking for this framework, when the orcas are not there, right, that's what the cause is, then the otter population did not decline, right? That line of reasoning is really captured by one option pretty directly, right? And that is basically option C, right? Key when the area is inaccessible to orcas, right? Then you don't have any decline in the population of the sea otters, right? A lot of you have also selected, a lot of the participants have selected option A. A does not work because it simply does not tell you कि sea otter population decline कैसे हुआ, right? It talks about a consequence or of a result of the population decline, but what was the cause of the population decline is not really answered by option A, right? So again, once you organize the different questions into different frameworks and into different templates, then you will automatically know what a correct answer should look like as well, right? Now, let's talk a little bit more about the processes that take place as part of our courses. So this is how our real-time doubt solving works. You simply ask your queries over WhatsApp, as simple as that. And within an hour of your query, a mentor will respond to your query in detail, and it will be in detail, right? So we have got mentors who are present in different time zones. So at any point in time, you will have at least one active trainer on the crew, right? And in fact, in the last 2 months alone, we have responded to over 4,700 queries, right? So that's basically 4,700 messages comprised across both quant, verbal, data insights, and across different batches, right? And again, as just to harp on this point again, our courses are valid for a lifetime, and at absolutely no additional charge can you choose to access the recordings, re-enroll in a new batch, no additional cost. Ask as many doubts as you want till your doubts are sorted, right? And this is what I mean by real-time doubt solving, that it's almost really real-time, right? If somebody would ask a query at 11:25 and I would respond at 11:26, right? And not only me, but some of the other peers and mentors would also respond to those queries, right? If somebody posts at 11:32 or somebody posts at 11:41 and I respond at 11:42, right? And also the environment that we have got, it's a very, very collaborative, cooperation-based sort of environment that we have set up, right? The goal is genuinely to help you get a good score, right? So even our peers or your other students, right, are extremely motivated to respond to the queries, right? Well, they might be delayed by 2 or 3 minutes, but again, they respond in pretty good detail, right? And it's not just, a one line key A is the answer because C is incorrect, right? So it's much more in detail that we go through. And really the focus is on conceptual clarity, right? And again, not only for verbal, also for quant, right? Again, the same process is what we have inculcated. And the same process has given us astounding results, right? 60% of our test takers, again, reported more than the 90th percentile on the GMAT, right? And again, matlab, I am active pretty much from 11 o'clock through 2 o'clock in the morning, right? 11 o'clock in the morning through 2 o'clock at night, right? And then some other times, some other mentors would be available. But again, the main idea is that people text me even at 10:30 or 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm always there for my students, right? So the goal really is absolute conceptual clarification or even strategy based discussions, right? कि मान लो आपका concepts clear है but आप apply नहीं कर पा रहे हो test में, time management में कोई issue है, तो we are always more than happy, me, Gaurav, Bhomick, Vaibhav, we are always more than happy to get on a chat with you and identify and diagnose those flaws, right? The goal is really to help you succeed. So I'll talk just a little bit about the content overview. So our courses also come equipped with a student portal, right? So you don't have to study from multiple sources. You have got a unique, dedicated, integrated portal through which you can access the recordings, assignments, official guides, and other reading materials. Every class has got some pre-class associated with it, either in the form of a video or in the form of a pre-read. And of course, after the class, we also have post-class assignments, which basically test you on your understanding of the concepts learned in the session, right? And in addition to that, we also conduct webinars with GMAT folks, right? So if you have visited my YouTube channel, for example, you'd have seen that last year we conducted 2 webinars with Seema Parakat, who was the general manager, associate outreach general manager at GMAC, to talk about the upcoming changes to GMAT Focus. At that time, it was still upcoming, right? Then we also have webinars with our success stories, right? So full interviews with students who cracked the 750, 760, those are all available on gmat30.com. And of course, the portal can also be accessed on 2 devices. So we limit access to 2 devices, 1 laptop, 1 mobile, right? But again, you can pretty much study on the go, right? And just to illustrate a little bit more on how helpful, for instance, our life doubt solving process is, and then I'll hand it over to Bhomick, right, to talk about the academic program aspect of the course. So we can just listen to a short 1-minute part of the testimonial from Tushar, who was our student who appeared for the GMAT for the first time with us, prepared for 3.5 months, and cracked a 750, right? So I won't play the full testimonial because it's a 4-minute long thing, but I'll just play 1 minute in which he talks about our life doubt solving process and what his
Apart from
experience
that,
was.
during the classes, I was active. I was asking questions very actively because I was, that's the kind of person I am. But both Gaurav sir and Param sir took my doubts very actively during classes. I often remember times when Param sir would used to extend classes by even half an hour at times to solve the doubts that we had. And beyond the classes, he used to give us problem sets, practice sets to sort of practice, from GMAT clubs, so something very accessible that way. And it was all based on where we were trading. So if we used to get done with the practice sets quickly, we used to get more of them. And I think beyond the classes, the questions that we used to come up with, any sort of doubts during the classes, used to get solved very rapidly. I often remember a small 1 or 2 line doubt for a particular question, which used to be responded by maybe almost 2 scrolls of WhatsApp chats until the point that the question is completely clear to us, or the concept is absolutely clear to us, the students. So I absolutely commend GMAT 30 and Param sir for this niche sort.
Great. So I think that gives us a fair idea of how seriously we do take the doubt solving process, right? And this is really one of the niche that we have come up with, that you don't have to wait to schedule a doubt session. You don't have to wait to write a mail or anything like that. We are genuinely passionate about helping you succeed on the test, right? And with this, I'll hand over to Bhomick, right, who will walk you through the rest of our academic presentation, and will also talk about the different courses, the offerings, and how the scheduling works, and so on and so forth. So over to you, Bhomick.
Good evening, Param sir. Good evening, Vaibhav, and good evening to everyone who is attending this webinar of ours. First of all, thank you for taking time for us on a Saturday evening. I know you must have had other plans, but thank you for coming. So starting at GMAT 30, we have fortnightly recurring batches So these batches that we run, they are cyclic in nature, and our usual batch ends in 40 to 45 days. And we have multiple offerings starting from weekday evening 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., then weekday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and on weekends from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, Sunday. As you can see, there's a demo schedule in front of you. These classes are alternate in nature. One day if you'll have verbal, then another day you'll have quant. As per this, we proceed. Data insights, that is the new part of GMAT Focus edition, is divided between verbal and quant. On a broader level, it is CR and RC with a bit of quant. So majority of the portion is covered under verbal. One part is covered under quant. So in all, there are 24 sessions that we conduct, and these sessions can train you from very basic level to the highest level possible. That is 99 percentile for GMAT. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So we have these following offerings. As you can see, 6-week weekday batch, 22 2-hour live classes, 11 for quant, 11 for verbal, library or GMAT official guides, pre-class videos, on-demand access to class recordings. These recordings are made available to our portal once the session is done. In next an hour or so, you get the recording to the portals. Access to 3,000 plus exclusive advanced practice question. All these questions are official GMAT questions that have been curated from the very oldest to the very current OGs. So if a person is able to finish all these, he or she will be in a very good shape to go for the exam. Then 15 full-length mock tests. These mock tests are one of the best that are there in the market. Once you have started taking these mocks and once you get these mocks evaluated from us, we can tell you in real time what you are doing right and where you are going wrong. So suppose a person is doing well, the concepts he or she has, they are crystal clear. Suppose they are making a few set of errors on a few set of topics. So these mock evaluations can give us that picture, ki why are you struggling? And as per that, we can give you a roadmap on which you can work before taking your next attempt. And this feedback loop helps in real time in getting to a very good score. Suppose you're getting a 645 and you come to us with the mock analysis part, we let you know, okay, these are the areas that you need to work on. It could be timing, it could be a topic like assumption on CR or humanity type questions on RC or algebra or probability on quant. I'm just giving you an example. So you can work on these things for the next set of days. As per that, you can build on that and then you can go for another mock and you will see that change is happening, that accuracy is building, and you can see that your score is getting up. Like it's increasing with every passing mock. So these are the real things that help a lot. As Param sir has told you about 24/7 live doubt solving, the best part about this doubt solving is the number of doubts that you have are getting resolved on day-to-day basis. Okay, you are not hung up on a particular doubt for a set of days, like for 5 or 6 days. On the very same day, suppose you are just practicing, you have sent in your query to the group. We have like 5 or 6 mentors that are there in that group, and they will revert right away. And this helps a lot in real time. Once a person starts GMAT, if you go and read blogs, the only concern people ask you where we should go for our doubts. For that, we have this doubt solving system that is active 24/7. Dedicated individualized performance analysis, that is your mocks. Access to host or strategy, yes, this comes in the later part of the prep where you can get on a call with our mentors, that is Param or Gaurav sir. They will give you a strategy how you have to work, and you can also connect with our past scorers like Vaibhav, Cable. This course that we provide is valid for a lifetime because we know when a person is preparing for GMAT, several commitments tends to come in between. It could be professional, it could be personal. So we have this thing, it is valid for a lifetime or till the time you are not done with your exam or till the time you're not there at your ideal score that you had in mind when you started this prep. And mock analysis. And we also have a weekend batch for people who can't find time on weekdays. Everything that is there on the weekday batch is covered in the weekend batch. The thing is, it is for 8 weeks. At the same time, the weekday batch, it is for 6 weeks only. Next slide, please. So to commemorate this special webinar that we are doing in collaboration with the Hansraj College, we have this special discount code that is visible on your screen. It will be mailed to everyone who is attending this webinar via this special code. You can avail 10% discount on every offering that we have, starting from GMAT Focus Immersive, that is a GMAT Prep, GMAT Consultancy, that is where we help you with the consulting part when it comes to MBA applications. Last is GMAT Comprehensive, which is a combination of the last two that I discussed, that is GMAT Focus Immersive and GMAT Consulting. So it will be mailed to everyone who is attending this webinar. You can scan it and then there will be a laid-in form. Just fill in the details and you can right away get the discount. That is 10% for on every offering that we have on our website. Can we move forward? So now this is the very important part. That's why we are here for deferred MBAs. So all of you must have heard of Chicago Booth. This is the same school to which Satya Nadella had went. Harvard Business School, MIT Sloan, University of Pennsylvania Wharton. This is a school to which Sundar Pichai has went. So these are the application deadline for deferred MBAs for these schools, like 4th April, 24th, 8th April again. As of now, we need like 90 days of your time to help you prepare for GMAT. And as of now, if you start your application part, we can aim for stage 1 programs, stage 1 for University of Virginia and ISB Hyderabad. By stage 1, what I mean, you have to apply with an essay. If your essay gets through, then there's a gap of 2 to 3 months in between for stage 2, and by stage 2 you have to be ready with your GMAT scores. Just look at these schools. They are one of the best schools in all across world. If you just have heard Web of how ISB has changed his life. He was doing well before ISB, but now the kind of opportunities he will have will be totally different and way more rewarding. We have had so many students who have gone to top B schools in US, like USC Marshall, ISB, INSEAD, MR, London Business School. The kind of opportunity that these schools open for people, it's immense. And the best part is for people who are attending this seminar as of now is you are in your second year or in third year of your college. You are actually in touch with your education. Okay, there is no gap in between. I would suggest this is the ideal time for you to take up GMAT prep. Just 90 days. You'll have a score in your hand that is valid for next 5 years. Just keep this thing in mind. 5 years is a very big time. People might be looking for jobs and might be thinking, yeah, I should start preparing for GMAT, but you will be the one who is done with the exam, with the GMAT part, and now you're looking for a job, and in 2 or 3 years down the line, I'll be going for an MBA. So just maximize, just try and capitalize on this time that you have right now, being in second or third year of your college. And one more thing that I would like to say about GMAT Focus Edition. The thing is, the time spent on the preparation of this exam is rewarding because the kind of returns a person gets in the long run, you can't even imagine what are those returns. Suppose you end up being at Chicago Booth or MIT Sloan or Pennsylvania Wharton. You might be running for a CEO of a company like 10-15 years down the line, or might be heading a team that is working on some next breakthrough product, or you are working as a product manager somewhere. So the opportunities are immense. If you have to spend your time, if you have to prepare for an exam, that GMAT Focus is that exam that you should aim for. And just 90 days we want. So, proper prep, 90 days, that's it. That's all you need to get to a good score on GMAT Focus Edition. And we have on the next batch that we will start from 29th of Feb. And we will also share the details with you in the next slide. So these are some of our top achievers, and you can be a part of this. And now I'll elaborate on the stories of our top achievers. So this is Anirban Das. He's currently in USC Marshall. He did his engineering from a VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology, and from his batch was 2019. So Anirban came to us after 3 or 4 attempts. Sir was able to help him, was able to push his score to 97 percentile. He was very at that point he was very kind of demotivated. He never knew he could get to that score, but with the right approach, sustainable habits, and proper framework that Param sir has told you about, if followed rigorously over a month of 2 or 3 months, then getting to a good score, it just comes to you. Like, you don't have to be like कि कैसे आएगा कैसे, but once the process kicks in, the score is there. You know कि हाँ, I'm getting to the accuracy on CR, I'm getting to the accuracy on RC, be it quant, be it data insight. Then you will see those little changes. The way you will start evaluating your own errors. Ki, okay, why I made this mistake? Okay, this was the key information that I missed out on. Once that part starts kicking in, you are on the right track. Like, the score is around the corner. Now, the next scorer we have is Maitri Mahajan. She is from DTU. Her undergrad was in mathematics and computing graduate, and she also scored a 740. And when she came to she scored a 610. 3 months, as I told you, like 3 months of proper guided prep with official questions and This doubt support that we have over WhatsApp can do wonders. Like 740 and ISB, that's a dream. Like anybody who is listening to this webinar who might be enrolling in the coming days, just look at this, like 3 months. All we need is 3 months of your time. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So this is a very interesting story. Cable Kapadi is also a friend of mine. He scored a 760. He came to us with a score of V28, and before coming to us, he tried anything and everything that is out there. How I can improve on my verbal, specifically with CR and RC. He worked very hard, but he was not getting any success. Okay, then he came to us. He came to GMAT 30. He came to Param sir and Gaurav sir. We sat with him. We told him it is possible. You have it in you. Just follow what we have. Like stick with the approach. Stick with the process. Once the process is right, the score is always around the corner. If you keep firing in the dark, you won't get anywhere. You have to look clearly what is your aim and how to get there. And these little things like doubt evaluation, doubt resolution over WhatsApp, these mock evaluations, all these things when are combined in a proper manner, this is the result that a person can aim for. 760. He did his engineering from Sardar Patel College of Engineering. Why I would like to put emphasis on this is it's a very normal college, like a tier 2 or tier 3 college of Maharashtra. Most of the people who are sitting here must have not heard of this college, what this college is and where this college, and look at him, he ended up scoring a 760. And why he did that? Because right approach, right process, and doubt resolution on day-to-day basis, and mock evaluation. These little things can make or break your prep. Now coming to next high scorer, Soumya Mukhopadhyay. Soumya also came to us and we helped him get to a 720. He came to us with a GMAT 46 percentile, and in 4 months of hard work, he get to a 720. Why Soumya's case is very important? He got a scholarship of $72,000. That is like 60 lakh rupees worth of scholarship. So why a good GMAT score is must? Either it can help you get to your dream preschool, or if you can't get to a dream preschool, it can get you a great amount of scholarship to the schools that will always open to you. And these both are winning scenarios. Either suppose if you get into Harvard, that's a win-win. If you can't get into Harvard, if you can get into like Columbia with a scholarship, and that is a win-win. So that's why you need a great GMAT score. Anything above 700 can build that thing for you, that you can get a scholarship. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So we have one more top scorer, that is Ujali Verma. She is from Hindu College. She came to us with the 80th percentile, and we help her get to a 96 percentile on GMAT. Now again, a special case, that is Pranav Shrimal. Pranav was from bit Mesra, typical engineering background. He struggled with verbal, but when he came to us, the way he liked the approach that he followed, the framework approach, the grammatical approach for sentence correction, the approach that sir has for reading comprehension. You can see the immense improvement got from 690 to 750. Like hardly 7 or 8,000 people score a 715, and he got to that score. Just look at it, and he got to ISB in 0th attempt. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So, will you be the next GMAT elite? And if you come to us, yes, surely you can be, because all these comprehensive training programs that we have, the GMAT Focus, Immersive, Application Support, Simulated Interview Training, preparing for the test, providing with Ivy League consultants, profile analysis calls, supporting you with unlimited edits. Like everything is unlimited, be it for the consultation part, be it for the prep part. Just enroll. You will see the support. Even our past students, you can connect with them, who can give you real insights, how they did it and what they followed in day-to-day routines. It's just that making small sustainable habits, like practicing a few set of questions, asking your doubts on regular basis, all these little things when combined and added and compounded over a month of 3-month period, you can do anything. Like you can get to a 740, 750 or 760. As of now, it looks like कि बहुत बड़ा score है कि कैसे होगा, will I be able to manage? But when you do these little things, कि you are attending the sessions, you're asking your doubts, you're keeping notes, you're doing few set of questions. We always say this to our students: don't make it overwhelming, keep it sustainable, because there are other things that are also there apart from GMAT in your life. Just keep it sustainable, and 3 to 4 months, you never know where you land, and that will be a score of 720, 40 or 750 at least. So these are our numbers. This is our website, www.gmat30.com. You can visit our website. This is my personal number, 8279989956. Anybody who is interested can connect with me on this number, or you can shoot us a mail on contact us at gmat30.com. These are the details. If you wish, you can take us. You can take a pic of this, and you can connect with us later after the seminar. Can you move on to the next slide? So next steps would be for you to enroll in our GMAT Focus Immersive 7 and 8 week intensive batch. These batches are unlimited, as we have told you. Now the upcoming starting days that we have is for for evening it is 29th Feb, for weekend 3rd March, and for morning it is 26th February. You can contact us on this number 8279989956, or you can shoot us a mail, contact us at gmat30.com. Just shoot in us a mail or drop in a text on this number. We will get in touch with you and we will brief you about the next step. So these are again the details. If you can quickly take a screenshot of these links and numbers, it will help you a lot in terms of enrolling. And we have a YouTube channel that is GMAT30 Param, and LinkedIn Params is also there. So these are the webinars that Sir has done with our past scorers, and these are upcoming webinars that are there with GMAC manager Seema Prakar, who will tell you what GMAT analyst, GMAT Focus is and how it works and how it is a better exam when compared to the older edition. Then again a GMAT 90th percentile LM speak in the coming days, and then followed by a GMAT verbal 700 level plus critical reasoning solving questions. So just keep a track of all these things. There's a lot that will come in the coming days. And if you can connect with us on YouTube and on LinkedIn, you will always stay updated with the events that we are doing.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Bhomick, for the detailed presentation. So everyone, I've shared Bhomick's contact in the chat box as well. I've also shared the links to our YouTube and LinkedIn channels. And I'll also mention over here our website, right, where you can browse in detail, really find information on our courses, on our testimonials, on the upcoming batches, the batch schedules, the fee, so on and so forth, right? So now we will open the floor for some floor up to some questions, right? So Siddharth, if you could maybe help us a little bit in this process, just in terms of saying what the different questions are. And then,
Yes, absolutely. So I think they can just message it to me if it's possible, and I can help you with the questions.
Sure. So I've got a couple of questions which I think we can take up. So Divya's question was, this one would be for you, Vaibhav. What is the difference between a profile for deferred admission and after work admission?
Right. So talk about the difference between the profile. Well, looking at it this way, so if someone is evaluating a profile for a deferred MBA, the only data that they will have on hand is what you've done in your school, is what you've done in your undergraduate, right? And any other extracurricular activity that you've pursued outside of college. So be it like, let's say, entrepreneurship, or, helping out in a startup, or, doing some work for the community. So those are the parameters that they will be looking at while evaluating a profile for a deferred MBA. Now, if we compare that versus someone with, let's say, 2 to 3 years of work experience, then most of the focus falls on what they've achieved in the workplace, like what kind of projects have they done, what kind of impact they've created in their workplace, uh, and what could be their, let's say, prospective career trajectory because of that particular work experience. So, since currently you all would be going for a deferred MBA, like right now that stands as a viable option. So most of the things that they'll be looking at is what you're doing within Hansraj, or what you're doing with 180 DC Hansraj. And of course, your grades as well. Grades form a significant chunk of that evaluation parameter. So I hope that addresses your question, Divya.
Yeah, I think that was pretty detailed. Divya, did you have any follow-up questions? No? Okay. So Muskan had a question, two questions, I believe. One is, what profile do we need for an Ivy League, or what profile do Ivy Leagues require? That's always $1 million question. So Vaibhav, I think you'd be the better person to answer this one.
Right. So Muskan, talking about the profile, I mean, there's no ideal profile, honestly. Like, I'll take an example from my code itself from ISB. So I know people, who have created EV charging technologies, and then they've sold those technologies to, to investors sitting in Netherlands. And then there are people like who are just regular people who've worked in coding. Let's say they've worked in Amazon, or they've been like regular engineers. How like they are very well talented, and they've created a lot of impact in the workspace. However, it's not very, it's not something that would appear on a headline on newspaper that okay, someone created this particular technology and then sold. So of course, taking that example with Ivy Leagues as well, I know many people, like I know one of my friends, she got into Duke University, not the deferred MBA, but like the regular MBA program. And then she has a regular work profile. It's just that what you care to bring about in your application essays is what matters at most. So you could be, you could be a very well overachiever as well. Like you must be in the top percentile within your class, and you have created a lot of impact out of your in your workspace or out of your regular schooling as well. But if you don't put that forward in your application essays, if you don't show that direction, then you won't be accepted into any college. So of course, there's no ideal profile. It's just whatever you have on hand, how you put it forward best. So that's where people like me and Param should try to, help candidates and try to see that, okay, what kind of characteristics do we want to bring out of that particular candidate and their profile while filling the application form. So again, no ideal profile. It's just how you put your profile forward and what kind of strengths you can show.
Correct. It's basically the story that you tell, right? So for example, I know of a student of mine who actually climbed the Mount Everest, right? And that's a feat that's so rare that, his GMAT score requirement was waived off entirely by Kellogg's, right? So Kellogg waived off that requirement simply because of his outstanding profile, right? So again, of course, Kellogg would not waive off the GMAT requirement for an engineer. I mean, the GMAT score has to be a very competitive 730, 740, so on and so forth. But again, it really does come down to your profile, the strong aspects of your profile, as Vaibhav mentioned and Bhomick mentioned as well, and how we present that story. It's really the story that is really important. What you have currently achieved till now, how the MBA will help you, what you'd like to leverage, or how would you like to leverage your MBA as a future career stepping stone, right? Mahiraj, can you help us in our scholarships? Well, yes, again, scholarships are a byproduct of how well you have presented the application, right? And several of our applicants have obtained scholarships as well, right? So again, it's more the GMAT score, the academics, and the story that is being brought out, right? The essays that you write, the interview that you have with the AdCom, those four factors, along with your work ex and extracurriculars, those few factors contribute to the scholarship, right? So of course, we don't give scholarships from our side, right? But we do frame the application and the essays, and we prepare you for the GMAT in a way that your profile is so strong that the university would grant you one, right? Merit-based scholarships, namely. So Ariman had another question. How important is mental math proficiency for GMAT, and what are some ways to improve upon it? So some ways to improve upon it. So that is a more elaborate discussion. Mental math proficiency is definitely important for the GMAT, simply because you're not allowed a calculator, right? You're not allowed a calculator for the quant section. You are allowed a calculator for the data insight section, but the calculator is so old-fashioned and so arcane that it's much more painful to use it than not use it, right? And most of the time, you wouldn't need to use it. Some basic ways to improve upon it, I could just touch upon them very quickly, would be things like guesstimation, right? Key, what would be the nearest rounding up or rounding down? And usually the options in the GMAT are presented in such a way that they are not testing your computation skills. They are more testing those problem solving skills, right? So very rarely do you ever have to perform a calculation right through to the very end. The options usually are put in such a way that if you are able to round up or round down to the nearest 10th or 100th place, you will be able to select the correct answer. So guesstimation is definitely one of them. Reverse substitution is another one of them. Key, instead of going from the equation that you have to the answer, you want to use the options that you have and fit them into the equation to see which option works, right? Another thing would be sequences and series, right? That's to do with pattern recognition, right? So instead of memorizing, let's say, a huge bunch of formulas for AP, GP, HP, those sorts of progressions, it's always better if you understand truly how the fundamental formula is arrived at, right? And therefore, the GMAT is a test where the fundamentals or a deeper understanding of the fundamentals is really important, right? So, Shalija, your question is, what are some major common mistakes that test takers have made that you have come across? How would you suggest they could be avoided? Well, this most common mistake, and I think Bhomick and Vaibhav would agree with me, it's simply the lack of consistency, right? That we have often seen that students are extremely motivated in the first week, the second week, right? But after that, something else comes up, some office project comes up, right? Some assignment comes up, right? And then that maintaining that consistency across a 6 to 8 week period is often the most challenging aspect that we have faced, right? But then again, at the same time, as Bhomick pointed out, that 90 days, that's all that we are really asking for in terms of pushing your score into the 94th or the 95th percentile, right? So one of the things that I often suggest to my students is that I look at the whole endeavor as almost a gym going process, right? अब जिम में हर दिन जाने का मन नहीं करता, right? Especially when you're starting out. So then we say कि अच्छा, you go every day, maybe you spend only half an hour or 45 minutes, right? And then the idea is not so much you spend only 45 minutes that entire day. The idea is that once you have spent 45 minutes, you're often motivated to spend at least 2.5 hours because again, it's problem solving, critical thinking, it's exciting, right? You ask your doubts, they are addressed. So that entire process just becomes much more cohesive, right? So on the days where you just don't feel like studying, for example, just try to study for an extra 30 or 45 minutes, just 30 or 45. And if the process is really followed, by week 3, that problem will never occur, right? Basically, you will be able to find 1.5 to 2 hours a day. The other thing we suggest is often compensating, right? If your weekdays are too hectic, for example, which it might be in case you have assignments or you're working somewhere part-time, for example, then make up for it over the weekends, right? Again, the doubt solving remains the same. Our bandwidth remains the same, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, right? So, and also don't feel shy to ask your doubts, right? As you heard Tushar, he was very active, he was very inquisitive, and our portal, our platform, our suite of products have all the tools that you need to succeed, right? But again, I mean, we cannot ask your doubts for you, right? But you have to be the one to take some initiative in terms of asking the doubts. We check in with you regularly. That is something we do. But again, you have to be the one who has to ask the doubts. And then that's where our magic kicks in, right? So those few factors, I would say, are amongst the top 3 definitely that I've seen. Isham, you have taken the test twice since last year, yet the verbal score did not improve. So for that, I think Isham, you should get in touch with us, should get in touch with Bhomick, right? We can analyze what the scores were in the last 2 attempts. We need to talk a bit more about your prep journey, what you did till that point in time, where the gaps were, what you studied, how long you studied, what your mock scores were, and maybe an ESR if you have access to one. If you don't, then still the other part of the discussion is something that we'll be able to help you better with once we have that discussion. So please do feel free to get in touch with Bhomick and, we could have that discussion. Also, what were your test scores, Isham? You could just send it to me over DM in the last 2 attempts. And Tanveen had a question along with Tushita. Are there any disadvantages of writing the GMAT multiple times? So it's never giving the GMAT. It's always taking the GMAT or writing the GMAT. You give a test when you are the examiner, right? So no real disadvantages of writing the GMAT, except that there is a 16-day window between which you can write successive test attempts, right? Also, there is the lifetime attempt. You can only write the GMAT 8 times in your lifetime and 5 times in a rolling 12-month period, right? But apart from that, there are no disadvantages. Universities always consider the best of the scores that you have submitted. And with the focus edition, you also have the choice which score you need to or want to send to the university, right? In the classical edition, you didn't have that choice. So all your previous attempts would be visible to the university. Now, the only thing that will be visible will be the score that you choose to send, right? So absolutely no disadvantage, except probably the financial disadvantage. It's 25K an attempt, right? And also, you don't really want to write it too many times. I mean, 2 or 3 is okay, right? Because after that, some mental fatigue would also start setting in. So those are the more financial and I would say academic disadvantages that could be there. But from a university's vantage point, absolutely no disadvantages. They will only see the score that you send to them, which will obviously be your best score. So we can take a couple more questions. Raghav, no option of super scoring, unfortunately. So you can't choose, let's say, DI best score from attempt 1, quant best score from attempt 2, and super score in that way. It has to be a full test that you share with the university. Cool. Any further questions? No? Okay, so I think that's about it then from our side. So thank you everyone for tuning in and attending the session again on a Saturday evening. As Vaibhav and Bhomick mentioned, it takes a lot and you'd rather be somewhere else. So thank you really for taking out the time. And we do hope that you found the session useful and informative, right? I've shared Bhomick's contact details and our social media handles with you. So do visit us, do get in touch with Bhomick. And then hopefully we can also help you excel at your GMAT prep and then help you get admitted to a great university with scholarship as well, as we have done for multiple students.
Great. So thank you so much for the session today. It was lovely interacting with all of you. Thank you so much, Vaibhav, Bhomick. So it was a really great meeting, and we are hoping to connect with you further for more queries and doubts. So thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely, Siddharth. It was great talking to you as well.
Thank you, sir, for the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sahana. Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you, Bhomick. Thank you, everyone. Take care, stay safe, have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll get in touch with you shortly.
So I had one question. So will we be getting the recording of this meeting as well?
Yes, we can share the recording once that's
Great. Because a lot of people who wanted to join, but I think the 100 was the limit. So in the beginning they
Achha,
couldn't join.
sure,
So
sure.
they had hard for the recording. So
ठीक है, so
we'll just share the recording with them.
absolutely. So we'll share the recording. That's not an issue. And we'll also share the discount code and we'll individually mail it out to the participants.
Great. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Siddharth.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.